Hello, and thank you so much for joining me today. I have a wonderful guest, but I have a question for you first. What is the biggest thing standing between you and the life you want? Isn't circumstances, but the expectations you've accepted from everyone else. Today, we're talking with Elaine Martini about authenticity, intuition, and having the courage to trust yourself. Thank you so much for joining us, Elaine.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And what a question, huh?
Was that?
Yeah, that was an incredible question to
Oh,
start.
yes, it is, because I always look at it like this. If people are watching this podcast, they've been drawn to it for a reason.
Yeah.
So the part about what am I supposed to do? Am I really living the way I'm supposed to be living? And that I feel is like the main focus for people, especially today, because a lot of people are quote unquote waking up and they're
Mhm.
looking at their lives going, do I really want to do this? I mean, who really am I? And it's not like before, where you're conditioned to you go to school, go to college, you get a job, you stay there forever, you retire, and then you start living. And now it's much different because people are saying, I don't think I want to do that now. I want to do something that gives me that purpose. And I
Yeah.
think that's where you come in. So I have a question. You help people stop living on autopilot and
Yeah.
start living authentically. How does someone recognize that they're living someone else's version of success instead of their own? And how does somebody know they're on autopilot?
I think like for me, that was very much the journey that I went through in my own life. That's why I I know that I can help people with that because like you look from the outside, my life looked very good. Like I kind of followed everything that people teach you that is the right way to live, like you in a relationship, I moved countries, I had my own company, I was doing quite well, but I just had this feeling that there was something missing. And I went around with this feeling for a very long time. And then is when I explored a lot of spirituality and a lot of different things, and I learned a lot. But I still felt that even that I was learning all those things, I had to start applying them to my life.
Mm.
And it was when I connected back to my own inner wisdom or my intuition, or like people use different words for that. But it was when it started guiding me to a completely different direction. And it took a lot of courage to follow that because quite often it's not an easy path. It's actually a path different from other people around you. And it really pushes you out of your comfort zone. And the way I see it is that it obviously pushes you out of your comfort zone because I really believe that we're here to grow and expand. So the only way for you to do that is for you to actually be following that guidance that will push you out of your comfort zone because that's where you grow. So then I left a very stable life and I went into going full time writing as well. Because like writing was something that I wanted to do since I was very young. And like so many people, I got convinced, or like that was the, let's say, the culture of the time that you cannot make a living out of something like that. And then I went into a way more, let's say, acceptable kind of career, which was in architecture. So I graduated as an architect. I did a master degree in Rome in building restoration. Then I went to the UK and I worked for some time. And then I also had my own company for a very long time. But I always had this thing within me of this is not really what I'm here to do. There is something missing here. And then I was in this search for purpose for quite some time. It is quite interesting because that's something I mentioned in my book as well. Like there's a chapter just about purpose because I had this question within me for such a long time around what's my purpose? What am I here to do? And it was when I made peace with like your purpose, the way I see it, is just following your own intuition, your own heart, and taking the next step. And then you like, I could have never imagined that my life, like I could have never seen the whole purpose of my life just from like those early stages. I had to be taking step by step. So that's very much what I help people nowadays is really connecting to their own inner wisdom, even though there's so much noise, there's so much like you
Yeah.
literally open social media and all you see is people telling you do this, don't do that, or stop doing this. And it's like, no, you gotta find like those two advices can be right. It's about you finding what's right for you in this moment and then following it and then trusting yourself, then taking the action. So yeah, that's kind of like became my mission now. Like in a way, my purpose. But it's like I said, I see purpose as something much bigger now. I see purpose as like is always opening up and is always kind of like taking you. It's a journey. It's not like, because, you know, like when we look at purpose, sometimes we can be very rational of looking at it and being, I want to know exactly where it is. But it also develops and progresses and grows and expands. And yeah.
Talking about purposes, do you feel that we have more than one purpose in life?
I feel like I said, for me, the way I see purpose nowadays is like my purpose is to follow my inner wisdom, follow my own guidance, follow my own path. And then that would take me into many different roads and many different directions. And I found that over the last few years, I learned and I kind of like, even with the book, like I now have been asked to be doing a lot of public speaking and speaking at events and could have never imagined that. But my purpose, that's why I made it quite simple for myself. I don't want to work out what all my purposes are. I just want to focus on right now in this moment because that's the only place that we really have the power to create change and move forward and even like move towards what our purpose is. So for me, the purpose is being in the moment, following my heart, following my own inner wisdom, and always looking inward. Obviously, we also connect to the world, but it's always connecting to yourself first, and then you connect to the world.
Um, Understood. That is, it sounds so simple, but we make it so hard.
Yeah.
And I feel that we make it hard because it's like our ego voice is saying, "Don't change, don't do that," because you're
Yeah.
going to upset the status quo. You're going to upset this comfortable rut that we've been in. And my God, what's going to happen after that? So,
Mhm.
really, it's all you have to do is just say, "Well, you know what? I think I'm going to take a chance because what's the worst that can happen? I go back to the comfortable rut." And when you give
Yeah.
yourself that permission and say, it's not all or nothing, it's just a choice, and I can choose to go back. So, chill out and just try to um, scratch that itch about what is missing,
Hmm.
because that's the big things. Like, there's got to be more. There's got to
Yeah.
be more. So when you ask yourself that question, people get ready because the universe will hear you and they'll give you an answer and they'll lead you to people like Elaine. Next question. Your
Hmm.
own journey included divorce, changing careers, moving countries, and becoming a best-selling author. Looking back, what was the moment when you stopped asking, "What do others expect of me?" and started asking, "What feels true to me?"
So I feel like for me it was a process, but what really woke me up in my journey was I had an experience that so with the job that I had that was doing I specialized in kitchen design after some time working in architecture. And I used to drive quite a lot. And there's this road on like in the UK called M25 that goes around London. And it's always very busy, very like full of traffic. And I was driving one day and there was a lorry in front of me. There was another car in my car. And we went to overtake and the lorry decided to move to our lane. And it hit the car in front of me start like turning into the road. And I had just like the split second to look into my rear mirror, see that there was no one in the other two lanes, and I accelerated to go past what was going on. And as I went past, there was a concrete wall on my right. And I could see on my left, literally the front grille of the lorry kind of approaching my own door. And that was something that I escaped the accident for like literally a split second and a few inches. And that really like woke something up in me because I start asking the question, what if that was my last moment? What if that accident happened? What would like what would my life be like? Would I be happy with how I've been living so far? Would I feel like that I did my best to really enjoy this life and live it to the most? And that kind of then took me into a really long journey of like looking for the answers for those questions. And then is when I started connecting to my own inner wisdom, and I noticed how quite often the like intuition and the what I was getting was very different to the outside world. And then is when I had to do a lot of inner work to like exactly what you said before, you know, our ego, our minds, the way we, our culture, everything around us quite often is telling us that it's safer to stay as we are and kind of like follow what everyone else is doing and following the plan that everyone else has. And either way, like you can't do that. But like I said, for me, it always meant I had this feeling that something was missing. So then the more I connected to myself, then the more I started trusting that voice. And it's so, I think that's the other thing that I find that a lot of people make this listening to intuition way more complicated than it needs to be. That's why I find it interesting. You mentioned earlier about we complicate things, and I really see that because I know I did it for myself. Like quite often you get an intuition, but then you doubt it. You think it might be something else. You don't know how to listen to it. So that's why over the years then I really learned how to really understand how it communicates. And like every person is different. And then the most important thing is actually taking the action. That for me was what made the biggest difference. Is actually, okay, I can feel that's the path for me, but then it gets to a point that you listening to your own truth, but then you also have to, even sometimes it can be with small steps. It doesn't mean that you need to do what I've done and then kind of like change careers, change country and everything like that. You can actually do it in steps and then you trust it more and then you do another step and then you trust it more. And that's very much what I see, it's like again, it's the simplest path. You don't need to overcomplicate it.
Yeah, that's the putting the toe in the water, and you don't have to jump in. Just put your toe in
Yeah,
the water and see what happens.
yeah,
Because 99% of the time, it's not as bad as you think. And
yeah,
again, the thinking is what keeps us back because our ego voice is like, no, 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 let's not do that. That would be, all these terrible scenarios that run through our mind. But when you do one thing and you prove it wrong, then you say, well, if I can do that, I can do this. And before long, you're actually, jumping leaps and bounds because you know that you actually can do it. The change isn't bad, it's
yeah.
good. Because once we start doing things like that, it's like we're saying we're trusting the universe. And when we do that, then the universe brings, the people, places, and things into our life in order to help us along on that path that we so bravely took. And like you said, it takes courage to
Yeah.
change. It really, really does because we're so used to being told what to do or formed into a certain way. And to break out of that norm, quote unquote, I always tell people, bring out the rebel and
Yeah,
and just go for it. What are people going to do? Talk about you? Who cares? But
yeah.
you're doing what you need to do. So be a rebel. And I think this is where my last question comes in, and we may have touched on it when we're talking about intuition. Because why do you think so many people ignore their intuition, even when they know something doesn't feel right?
I think the first thing, at least that was like that was how it was for me, my journey. And I also see a lot of the people that I work with, there is a lot of fear, and there is also a lot of they're not sure. There is that level of like, I'm not 100% sure if this is my intuition or if this is my fear, or and then you get the fear and the ego, they get all mixed up because we're so programmed since we're very young to connect to the outside world way more than we are connecting to the
Right.
inside world. So that is a process. But I say to people all the time, like, you can actually start doing like things like you can start following your intuition with small things. You don't need to be, like I said, you don't need to be like changing your whole life. Just like do it with small things. Like I actually teach a lot of little exercises you can do to listen to like how does it feel for you? Does it like even something simple like if you just connect to your body for a minute and then you feel, does this feel expansive or does this feel contracted? And that's already giving you an answer. Or even like if someone, let's say, if you had an intuition and you didn't follow it, and then it turns out that your intuition was right, you can even look at it from the perspective of like, okay, instead of blaming yourself, because a lot of people will go into that mode of like, oh, I haven't done it, and why did I do that? And but instead of doing that, look back, connect back to that moment that you had that intuition, that feeling, and really pay attention of how it was that it came through. So was it a feeling in your body? Was it a voice? Was it a message from someone? Or because people can connect like depending what is easiest for you, you can get your intuition through many different ways. So connect back to that and really pay attention to how that came through and learn from it. And then make a commitment that next time when you feel that weight, when you feel that same way, you're going to take the action and you're going to move forward in however way that is guiding you. It's really about, I feel it's a learning process. And that's why I really love to make it really practical and in a way that people can implement that every day. Because I feel there's a lot of like mysticism around intuition and people think it's a special gift. And I really feel if we really work on it, all of us have it. There is not a single person that never had a gut feeling about someone or didn't get into a room and didn't get like some sort of vibe or so everyone has like, but obviously we overcomplicate it and we look at it from like a more mystical perspective, which obviously there's that side to it as well, but it's really about like we can make it very practical and it's just a part of us connecting and communicating. And then it's also around separating fear and ego and learning all the different voices that we have. And the way I like to describe them is like the way at least that I resolved it for me, because I had a lot of anxiety when I was younger. And I had a lot of fear that will come up very, very often. And for me, I started really listening to my fear and listening to my ego. Because even if you look from a perspective of you being in a relationship, you want to be heard, you want to be understood, and you want to be listened to. So every part of you wants the same. So it's the same thing with your fear. I find that when you connect to your fear and you listen to what it's trying to tell you, it is always trying to protect you. But then if you listen to it and you integrate it and you like the way I like to describe it as see and nowadays all those kind of emotions as us being in a car and everyone has the right to say things or to like or say their opinion or what they think is going to happen, but it doesn't mean that they take the wheel and they drive the car. I'm the one that drives the car, but they can all have a voice. So that's the way I found, because I try to ignore those voices. Like, there's a lot of advice out there to like just like pretend your fear is not there or just kind of like think positive and things like that. And I just find that for me didn't work because I was so sensitive. I had to listen to my own emotions. And actually, I find that nowadays my intuition works a lot with my emotions. So that's the way I really connect with it. So that's why I said everyone is different. But for me, my intuition speaks a lot from my emotions. And if I haven't done that process of actually listening to my emotions and kind of understanding, getting to know them, then I wouldn't be able to be as connected to my intuition as I am now. So it's really about learning what's your way. And then kind of like I like to imagine it's like a relationship. You're getting to know that part of you and then you working ways. How can you make that relationship better and deeper? And that's the process that how it has been for me.
You mentioned the mysticism around intuition.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel, let's say, take intuition versus psychic? All right. So people think, oh, I can't trust my intuition because I'm not psychic. Well, what are you? A psychic is you're seeing things, but your intuition, you're feeling. And intuition is nothing mystical. It's built
Yeah.
in. It's our fight or flight thing, we get that the churning in our stomach, or we're like, oh my God, I have to, get out of here. Or we get the butterflies and it's like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
That's built in. We all have that intuition. We want to develop it more. We can call it being psychic, but it doesn't matter. We're intuitive people. Everyone is.
Yeah.
And the last thing that I would like to do is say, I knew it. I should have trusted my gut. I hate it when I say that, which I don't say that very much anymore. So yay. But if you get that thing where how many times have you said, I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. I should have trusted my gut. Go back to that gut feeling, like you said,
Yeah.
and remember what it felt like or how it, ran through your body, sweaty hands, you couldn't sleep at night, whatever the deal is. And know that that is the part that's built in that's going to help you in this walk in life.
Yeah.
Again, so simple, we make it hard. So there's
Yeah.
nothing mystical about it. It's there for our using. You got to do it. If you don't feel right, trust that. If it feels right, trust that and
Yeah.
go from
Trust
there.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, because the biggest thing that keeps us from it is fear.
Yeah. And it's like interesting you mentioned about I think the easiest way I'll probably explain it and make it quite visual is, for example, like the difference between being psychic and intuition is like anyone, if you went to school and you learned how to write, anyone can write, can get a piece of paper and write, anyone can. But then obviously you get people that develop that skill more and they can become writers and can be writing poetry and they can be writing books. And so, but why? Because I feel a connection to that and I wanted to pursue it. So I invested more time, I invested more of my energy, I developed that because that's what I wanted. So then you become, let's say, at another level, but it doesn't mean you don't have that to start with. Anyone can get pen and paper and write. So that's probably the way I would differentiate the two is around like intuition. Everyone has it. You just have to learn the basics of how you connect to it. And then obviously if you want to develop it further, then it's up to you. Is then again, is always following your own heart because I feel some people will
Mhm.
feel drawn to developing that and some people won't, and their path will be different.
Yeah, we just basically need to get out of our head. So
Yeah.
stop thinking and start feeling,
Yeah. Can I,
right?
if it's okay, I'll just like, because that's an exercise I started in the book, and I teach this all the time and all the book talks, and it's very simple because I used to
Hmm.
have this problem of being very much in my head. That's why, like, I struggled so much with anxiety, overthinking, and everything else. And even my overthinking, I realized that it was a lot because I wasn't connecting to my emotions. So obviously, then my mind is taking over and doing the job of like bringing awareness to everything that was going on. So you start going overthinking. So one thing that really helped me in my journey was just doing a simple, like you can do this anyway. When you take a breath in, you imagine that the breath is coming through your heart, and then you breathe out and you imagine that it's coming out of your heart. And like nowadays, I do it even if I'm talking to someone or if I'm out on the streets, or like in the beginning, it helps if you just close your eyes and like get a little practice of how that feels. And I feel this is something that straight away brings your awareness from your mind into your body. So
Right.
you're already disconnecting from the mind. And the other thing I find that it does, and this is very easy to understand, is like, if you have someone around you that is stressed, you're going to get stressed sometimes just from being around them. And I
Hmm.
find that when you constantly bringing your awareness to your heart, kind of disconnecting to your mind and like kind of bringing down your energy to your body and kind of being fully embodied in the moment and in your body, it has an effect in other people as well. I've done this in plenty of places that I'll have like, I don't know, you see that let's say the people getting really angry and stressed, and then I bring my energy back to myself and I calm myself down and kind of like, I'm not going to connect to this. I'm going to keep my own center. And then
Hmm.
it's like you can watch, you're going to see that people are going to kind of like calm down, and it has also a contagious effect. So that's a very simple thing that you can do, and it straight away brings you off your mind.
That's very interesting. It's the contagious effect. It's not the mentality, like we've heard of mob mentality. So everyone's upset and so, it just spreads. But this is this is different. We're just giving everyone a little bit of peace. And then they'll
Yeah.
catch it. It is contagious. You could sit there and burst out laughing, and people will start laughing.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. But you could, I like that word that you're using. It is contagious. It just flows out. And that's what we need to do. But we
Yeah.
need to start with ourselves first. So
Yeah, it is.
I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast today. And I want to remind everyone, where can people find you?
Yeah, so just a quick one I was saying there is just like we know we talk a lot about the getting influenced by the world in a negative way. But then also when we do those things and we do those practices and we work in ourselves, we influence the world around us in a positive way. So, but again, exactly like you said, it starts with us. It has been my journey. When I'm in my own space, when I'm living a life that is aligned with my heart, I find that like people around me kind of start wake, even if you don't say anything, it's almost like something start waking up on them. So I feel that's quite magical to watch as well. But yeah, they can find me. So I am on Instagram, Elaine Martini Create. I'm also got my website, elainemartini.com. My book is called Truly Connected, Create a Life and Work Guided by Your Inner Wisdom, Authenticity, and Soul. And very much the first whole half of the book, the first part is really about connecting to yourself first, because that's the only way that you can create a life that is aligned with. And then the only way you can create deeper connections as well is only from you having a deeper connection with yourself. That has been my experience. So yeah, I would love to get people to connect and have a go together in this journey, because I do find that I do also run a community where we do this kind of work every day, and I find that nowadays it's so important to have this connection with other people that are in this path and really like working on themselves and working on like creating a better world, creating like step by step. Doesn't mean that you need to be someone that changes the world, but I feel every single person that lives more aligned with their heart, they are changing the world, even if they don't realize it. It could be a conversation that they have in the shop and that they don't even know the effect it's going to have. So yeah, it's again that kind of contagious ripple effect that we're not sure what it is, but it's just I find that even with my writing, sometimes I get people that like I had someone that messaged me a few months ago saying they found a post that I have done 7 years ago. And they like it really connected with me and it really meant so much to me that I needed to message. So we really like don't know the effect that we have this idea sometimes that if it didn't create an effect now, it wasn't successful. But that's not how it works. Someone can come across something that you done years later and it's still going to change them. So it's really about as long as you're following your heart and you're putting that out in the world, you are creating change.
And one last thought with that, people need to know, the ones that are saying something is missing, they're not the only ones asking.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
not alone. So there are a
That's the
lot of people.
beginning.
That's just the beginning. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that are asking the same thing. And when that happens, I feel that you will start living the life that you truly want. And welcome.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Elaine, for being with us. I'm Cassandra, and I will see you next time.